Preflight for Crosswind Circuits. The aim of this preflight is to learn techniques used to accurate fly a circuit in crosswind conditions. So, motivation factor behind today's lesson is, we may not always fly a circuit in near wind conditions, so it's really important to learn how a crosswind can affect our circuit, and to make sure we account for that, as if we don't, we won't fly a standard circuit pattern, and it can be quite dangerous as well, especially since we're quite close to our traffic. So the aeroplane, so we're in Alpha Bravo Charlie. Type is a Warrior. Fuel, let's say we've got 120 litres, which is plenty. Oil, we've got 6.5 quarts. Flight time is 1 hour. ATIS, let's say we've got information India. And in terms of the wind, so 290 in use, but the wind is, let's make up, 260 magnetic, and 30 knots. So the crosswind, so if it's 30 degrees for runway, so 260, 290, so that 30 degrees, 30 minutes past the hour if you measure a clock face. So that means 50% of is a crosswind, so 15 knot crosswind. So in terms of the crosswind, it will be coming towards from the left. So in terms of the radio calls, radio to runoffs will be done by you. You're coming to a stage where you've already gone solo in the circuit area, or you're almost going solo, so it's good practice. So takeoff and training and landing. So I'll demonstrate the first 2 circuits, and then I'll hand over to you, and then you'll do the takeoff, training and landing. I'll direct you through, and then taxiing and shutdown will be done by you. So in terms of your taxiing and takeoff, ailerons into wind. Even when you're taxiing, make sure if it helps, put the heading bug into where the wind is coming from, and position your ailerons into wind. And even for that taxiing and considerations, helicopter radar wash. So that almost looks as if it's a wind. The wind is blowing. That's kind of like how we imagine helicopter radar wash affect our airplanes. So make sure you put the ailerons into wind, and make sure you put them neutral before rotation, so that we don't have a wing strike before takeoff. So if you're starting off on the runway, you've got it all the way into wind, and then you're slowly putting it neutral when you reach that 60 knots, all the way neutral. Airborne, make sure you have the ailerons into wind, and you're sort of weathercocked into wind. You've got your reference point, but you're weathercocked towards the left into the upwind. If you've got the crosswind coming from the left, anticipate turns as well. If you've got, that means if we come onto your crosswind, it'll be a bit of a headwind, so maybe even delay the turn a little bit. And in terms of crosswind base, so it'll be headwind, and the base will be a bit of a tailwind, so it'll go quite quick. So that's really important that you're aware of how it affects your aeroplane. And the pilot's lift formula, so if you're going too quick on base, power for safety performance, so use less power, or even you can extend or delay the use of flaps. So landing, cross control method, so if you've got a left aileron, right rudder, and you're aiming to touch on upwind wheel, main wheel, and then the nose wheel. Upwind wheel, downwind, and nose. So in terms of required knowledge base, so calculated cost component, so we've already pretty much done that using that rule of thumb with the clock face. So why don't we limited flaps or no flaps? So by using less flaps, there's less surface area for the wind to act through, so it's a bit easier to control, and also we can come in at a faster speed, since we need to anyways as our stall speed increases, and it provides greater control. So remember, power controls airspeed, and energy controls your aim point. So if the wind's blowing direction and you want the certain track, you'll maintain a specific heading to account for it. So that's really important. So you're doing the same exact normal circuit, but you're just accounting for that wind, where you've got a headwind, more of a headwind on crosswind. For a left crosswind, and for base you've got a bit of a tailwind. So competencies, no competencies for this lesson, but a few things I'll be assessing as part of the Part 61 manual standards. So complete checks and accordance with checklist, so follow that really thoroughly. Plus or minus 1.5 meters from centerline during taxi, so make sure that yellow centerline goes between your legs. Plus or minus 2 meters from centerline for takeoff and landing, so make sure you apply plenty of right rudder. And for landing, you're using the ailerons for centerline, and your rudder for the nose of the airplane. So that's how that cross control method works. Plus or minus 2 meters from touchdown. So basically that's also related to a centerline. Plus or minus 5 knots final approach speed. So you're really accurate, powerful airspeed, attitude for your aim point, and correcting for the crosswind appropriately. So make sure you apply that technique all the way through. So animation, so you can circuit aiming, you can aviate, navigate, aviate, the airplane, fly the airplane first. You may even need to go around, so that you do aviate and communicate. Navigate the airplane to the circuit and then communicate with the tower. If you're doing go around, you're reporting for a touch and go or full stop. Look out in terms of speed, you're doing a bit of increasing or decreasing the speed, you're increasing the speed if you do a flapless landing, and procedures, and you're accounting for that drift. Listening watch due to the workload. So remember, we've got a high workload, um, so it's really important that you're head of the airplane, and we've got the threat of having an gusty conditions. A management technique will be correct technique, less flat, and then design aircraft state with loss of control. So the error would be, having using full flap or not using correct technique. So that's really important to use less flap or use correct technique and account for that crosswind. But also we've got that utilising that heading over taking over method procedures on downwind. So using your radio call, your bum fish, doing HHSS, and then the approach configuration. Anticipate turns, so in terms of crosswind and base attitudes, power adjustments as well. So power plus attitude is performance. So in the circuit area, we've got threat of traffic. The area will be poor lookout, not listening to traffic, and design aircraft state air proximity. So make sure you have a good lookout and you're listening to towers off. And then another threat in this lesson is, as I mentioned before, working threat of unstable approach. Then we saw an error in terms of the not identifying a non-standard approach, and the management technique will be go around AAA, and the undesired aircraft state will be a missed landing, heavy landing or damage to landing gear. So make sure you use good command decision making and you go around the airplane.